Okay, the first thing we're going to do is remove the cover on top of the engine. It's pretty simple, you just pull it off. It's held on 4 points. And after that, we're going to remove the dipstick. So, pretty hard to get it off by hand, but it's off there. You just pull it off, you can see a little O-ring there to seal it. And what we'll do then is put the tube in here to pump out the oil. I'm using a vacuum pump. Okay, we're going to put the tube into the dripstick port in here, feed it all the way down. You will feel a little bit of resistance here and there, but you will know when you get down to the very end, you'll feel it hitting the bottom. That's it there. And I just pull it up a tiny bit more just to make sure it's not on the bottom. I'll connect this end into the vacuum pump and we'll start to pump out the oil. There should be in this engine about 4 to 5 litres of oil. So we keep pumping until all of the oil is drawn out of the engine and into the container. So you can see we're nearly halfway. You can hear the oil rushing in. It's still quite warm. You do need to warm the engine a little bit to make sure that the oil flows easily. Okay, you can see we're up to 4 litres here now, where the line of the oil inside. So at least I know I've got 4 litres in the engine. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to pour it into my waste container where I get rid of all my engine oil. Eventually I'll bring that to the local waste centre. So that's all of the oil removed from the engine using a vacuum pump. So here I'm pouring in the remainder of the oil that was removed from the engine. It was less than half a litre, so about 1/4 litre. So overall it was about 4 1/4 litres that came out of the engine. Okay, so now we're going to put the dipstick plug back in. That goes in here. Okay, make sure it's gone good and tight that it's not going to fall off. The next thing we're going to do is remove the oil filter. So you can see the oil filter is just here. So in on top of the engine, in here, and that is a 32mm socket that you need for that. Okay, so here's my assistant. Okay, so here we have the 32mm socket and wrench. We just put it on there and remove the cover. Okay, now before I take out the filter, I'm going to pack some rags in around the area to make sure that no excess oil gets spilled inside the engine bay. So that's gone very loose now, so we're just about ready to take that off. Okay, so I've got some rags in around the filter housing. I'm going to pull the cover off. It's just about ready to come off, and the filter is actually coming with it. So we just let that drain into the cavity a little bit over the rag and then take it out. Okay, Jamie. Okay, so it takes a bit of effort to get the filter off of the cover, but once it's off, you can see in there no major metal, nothing unusual, just a dirty filter. What we're going to do is change this O-ring here, this big one, this one and this one, and that'll make sure we don't have any internal or external leaks once the filter housing goes back together. So here we have the old filter, and on this you can see it says here top. Okay, and on this one we have the old or the new filter, but on this one it doesn't say top. So what you need to look out for is in here you've got a lot of I suppose plastic where you can see through to the paper, but on this end it's solid plastic. So what you need to make sure is that the inside of the filter matches what you can see here and what you can see here. That way you'll know whether it's the top or the bottom. Here we have the new filter installed. All of the O-rings have been wetted up with a little bit of oil, and you can see here 25 Newton meters is the torque to retorque it. So here we have the filter cover back in. I'm just screwing it in by hand until I know it's picking up the thread. Then I'm going to use the wrench to tighten it down. Okay. It's not very hard to turn. You can hear the O-ring binding. Okay, so we're ready to top up the oil. What I'm using is a generic brand Once it has the Audi or the Volkswagen 507 spec, that's good enough for this 1.9 TDI engine. So I'll go ahead and top it up with 4 litres because I know I took 4 litres out, then I'll check the oil quantity on the MMI. Okay, so here we have the new air filter. Air filter's in here. So we're going to take this Jubilee clip off, remove the pipe. Okay, and once that's off, there's a tiny clip down here. You can just clip it out of the way, and once you do that, you can turn the housing and take it off. Much easier than the older Audis, the older A4. And then here's our filter. You just want to have a look in there, Jamie? Okay, so we just pop that out. So one thing you need to watch out for when you're putting this back together is making sure that this sits inside the air filter, inside here, and also that this little clip is in the right place, because that's what locks it in and stops it rotating out. Okay, so I had to take the cover out of the sensor wire just to get the filter on first, because it was quite difficult to get on otherwise. It was very difficult. I had to wet the seal so that it would go on properly. So we'll try that again. So you can hear it locking into place. I'm going to reconnect the airflow sensor, and I'm going to reconnect the air pipe coming out of the filter, and we're good. That's it. Tighten that up, and that's the air filter done. So the engine's running. I'm just going to have a look in here, make sure there's no oil leaks. So that looks okay. So now I'm going to check the oil level. So we'll start by turning on the ignition. So we go into car, systems, servicing and checks, oil level, and you can see there the oil level is okay. Okay, so now I'm going to reset the oil servicing interval. So for that, you go into your MMI, car, systems, servicing and checks, service intervals, oil change due 6,000. Okay, so we scroll down, reset oil level change. So now it's saying 1 year or 14,500 kilometers. Okay, so we're going to do the fuel filter on the car. So we have to jack the car, we'll jack it, get the axle stands in underneath, and then the fuel filter, it's on the driver's side and it's just about here underneath. So we'd have to drop the pan off the bottom of the car. We'll have access to the fuel filter then, and we'll change it. That's it. So here we can see the car is jacked, and underneath you've got the back pan, the middle, which runs all the way along here and then stops here, and you've got a number of nuts that run along here which have to be loosened, and eventually this pan will come off. Okay, so I've removed the pan, not fully, and here you can see, so between the mirror and the door handle, come down, and there is your filter in here. So we're going to remove this nut. This should pop away, and then we can get to the 2 pipes and remove the filter. So here we have access to the fuel filter. You can see here we've got this connection on this end and this connection on this end. So we'll take those off and put the new filter in. So that's the new filter in. See, the clamps are back on. One thing to note is the direction of flow. You want to make sure that's right, flowing from the tank to the engine. Okay, so that was the basic service on this 1.9 turbo diesel Audi A6. It's the C7 model, the 4G2. I hope you find it useful.